Hello everyone. Today is the 19th video of my database management systems practical video series. Today I'm going to answer for the 19th video, 19th question of the question list. Let's go to the question list now. Here you can see under day 5 is the question 19. If you didn't watch my previous videos, actually the previous two videos, we are continuing the same question. We started from question 17, and today we have to answer using the ER diagram we created and the database and the data we entered in the previous video to our database we created. Okay, let's read the questions of question 19 and answer for them. First one is, two new students have been admitted to grade 11 of this school. The details are listed in the table below. Enter that information in the student table. Okay, here are two students who admitted to our school, so we have to enter their details to the student table. Let me open the SQL browser and let's enter these details. I'm going to use the query method. There are two methods. We can use the method I used to enter these details in the previous video. That method is called the graphical method, but I'm going to use the query method for this for answering this question. Okay, let's enter these details. You can see we have to insert this data into the student table. That means we have to use, or we have to create an insert query. For that, we talk about the insert queries early in our videos, but we have to use the keyword insert and into. Those are two keywords, and here we have to mention our database. We are going to insert these new details. The database name is exam marks db, and then here's the table. We are going to add this detail student, and you can use two brackets and then define a specific attribute when you are inserting a specific value to the database, actually the table, but in this case we have to insert the complete record of the student who's admitted to the school. So in this case I'm not going to use this method, and then just let's just insert all the records. So I'm going to use the keyword values. This is the keyword you use when you are going to mentioning the values. When you are mentioning a value, you have to put the value inside two single quotes like this, and then here's the first value. Here you can see in the question there's a new attribute called ID. You can see there's no attribute inside our table, but actually we already defined the primary key, so we don't need the attribute called ID. So I'm not going to insert these two data, only the index number, first name, last name, gender, contact number, and last name. And let's enter these details. Is the index number, and you have to separate the values by using a comma. Is the first name, and the last name, and here's the gender, female, and here's the contact number, Okay, here's the last value. It's the class name. You can see they're given only the class name, but if you go to the student table, here you can see we foreign only the ID, class ID of the class table. The class name is stored in a different table called class, and here you can see the ID of class A is 1. So that means we have to use number 1 as when we mentioning the class name. Otherwise that will the query, when you execute the query, there will be an error. So here we completed our first query to the database. Let's execute this one and see if there's an error or not. You can see there's no error. The query executed without any errors. And let's go to the student table. Here's our new record. We insert STU009, and then that means the query is correct. And let's insert our second record. For this one, I'm going to clear this insert query and write the insert query again. Insert into, here's the database name, exam marks DB, and here's the table student, and here are the values. STU_010, and here's the first name. Here's the second, the last name. And here's the gender and the contact number. Okay. Here we can't use the name 11B. We have to use the ID of the class 11B. Here's the ID of the class 11B, number 2. Let's put that in our query and execute this one. We are using this execute button in order to execute the queries we write down in this area. Okay, you can see the second query executed without any errors. Let's go to the student table, and here is our record STU_010. Okay, that means we completed the first part, and here's the second part. Index number STU_004, student's last name should be changed to Moses. Write the relevant query, SQL query. Okay. In the second part, we have to change an existing value inside a table. For this one, I'm going to use the update queries. Let me go to the SQL browser. Let's go to the query tab, and when you are defining or creating an update query, you have to use the keyword update. And then you have to mention the database where this data are stored, and you are going to update. Here's the database name, exam marks DB, and then here's the table name where the data are stored. We are going to change the data inside the student table, and here's the data we are going to insert or update. These are the updated data, and before you are mentioning the value, you have to mention about the attribute that will store this value, this new value. So here's the attribute name. When you define an attribute name in any query, it's better you use two grey question marks and put the attribute name inside those two marks. It'll be a good practice, but if you want, you don't have to use these two grey question marks. You can mention the attribute name without them, but I'm going to use those two marks. We are going to insert data or update data inside the last name attribute inside the student table. Let me copy the name, last name. I'm copying this data because it will be accurate. Otherwise, if I did any mistake when mentioning these names, there will be an error. So here's the last name. Last name equal to, here's the value we are going to store. We are changing the last name of the student who has the student ID STU_004 to Moses. Okay, here's the value Moses, and then you have to mention where the existing values are by using the keyword where, and then here you have to mention the column name, the attribute name, where the data are stored. Actually, this is a condition. We are using this where keyword to mention where the data are or where the attribute are. In this case, we are using some unique value to identify this record. So it's better we use the index number, the primary key, to identify this record. Here's the record. We are going to change the STU student last name whose index number is STU_004. Here's the student. Like that, if we mention this index number, it will be easy to find this record. So I'm going to mention that one. Here's the attribute name. Let me copy the attribute name, index number, and then it's equal to STU_004. Okay. Here we completed our update query. You can see the existing last name of the student whose index number is STU_004 is Tilakaratne, and when we execute this query, let's execute this query now. You can see there's an error pop up. This error is showed because we didn't mention the keyword setup. Set, not setup, it's set. If when you are mentioning the new value you are going to set, you have to put the keyword set before mentioning the new value. So let's execute this one. You can see the query executed, and let's see. Let's refresh our table. You can see the student who has the STU, who has the index number STU_004, and his last name changed to Moses. Okay, we completed the second part, and here's the third one. Natasha Vimala Sena, student's contact number should be changed to this number. Write the relevant SQL query. Okay, we have to change the contact number of this student. So let's go to the MySQL browser, and let me clear this update query we executed earlier. Okay, here we have to write another update query. We have to change when we are changing any value which are already inserted, we have to use the update query. Is the update query update and his database name exam marks db, and here's the table student, and here's the new value set first attribute. Let me copy the attribute name. We are going to store, or we are going to update a value inside the contact number. Here's the contact number attribute equal to this attribute. Here's the number okay. Here's the number, and then we have to mention where we are going, where the existing data are, or we have to mention the record. So in order to do that, I'm going to use the first name and the last name, because we cannot we can use the index number, but in the question they only gave us the name of the students. You can see there's the first name and the last name of the student, so that means we have to use that one, not the index number. So I'm going to use the index number, the student name to identify the record. We are going to update. Here you can see the name of the student can be separated into two parts. The Natasha is the first name, and the Vimala Sena is the second or the last name. So there are two attributes we have to mention. For that, we have to use an AND query. We have to check whether both of these values are in those attributes we are mentioning. So here's the first one, first name. Let me copy that one. Okay, equal to Natasha. Okay, and then here's the AND condition and keyword, and then here's the last name. Equal to here's the last name, Vimala Sena. You can see she is the last person we entered to the student table, and here's the existing contact number. It starts with 075, and here's the new value we are going to update. It starts with 077. Okay, here we completed our query. Let's execute this one. You can see the query executed without any errors. Let's refresh this table, and here's the here's the updated contact number, and we completed the third part of the question. And here's the fourth one. Natasha Vimala Sena transferred schools before the first term examination. Therefore, remove the information about the student from the student table. let's go to our HDSQL browser. We have to remove this child from the student table. So in order to do that, we have to use a delete query. So when you are defining a delete query or creating a delete query, you have to use the keyword delete. And here's another here's the place we are mentioning the database where the data stored and what are the data we want to delete. Okay, here I'm mentioning where the data are by using the from keyword from, and here's the database name, exam marks db dot here's the table name student, and here's the condition for here's the identification of the record we are going to delete. So in the question you can see there's no there's no index number mentioned in the question, only the name of the students are here. So we have to use this name like we did in the last the previous query. So I'm going to mention the first attribute, first name. First name, let me copy that one. Equal to Natasha, and then is the second one I used AND keyword. Last name last name is Vimala Sen. Okay, here we completed the delete query. Let's execute this one and see whether our child is removed or not. Okay, the query executed, and here I'm refreshing the table. You can see the student whose name equal to Natasha Vimalasena was deleted from our database. We completed the fourth one, and let's move on to the fifth part of the question. Find out the details of all students in the school. This is an easy task. We just need to write an search query or select query. We did this kind of selections in my previous videos. You know what we have to do in order to select details. We have to use select keyword, select, and here I'm mentioning what are the attributes I want in my result. I need all the details of the student, so I'm using the asterisk mark, select asterisk from. Here's the place I'm mentioning the database name where our details are stored. The details are stored in exam marks db, and here's the table I want to show in my record. I need all the details, so this is the query to get all the results, all the names and all the details of the students in our school. So let's execute this one. You can see in the result there are all the children in this inside this who's registered in this school. So That's the query. That's the answer for the fifth question. Okay, here's the sixth part of the question. Find the marks of mathematics subject of all students in the first term. Okay, uh, uh, here we have to write another select query, but the specialty is we have to combine more than one tables. You can see we have to get the data out from the subject table. We have to find mathematics, and then the student table, actually the marks of the students, and then the term. There are three tables. So if we when we writing these kind of queries to get the result, there are two methods. First one is using the subqueries, and second one is using the join queries. If you use the join query, you can combine those three tables and then define a condition. That way you have to use only one query, but in subqueries you will write more than one query to select the ID from the subject table, and then select the ID from the term table, like that. You will write more than one query to get that detail. For now I'm going to use the subquery method. So I will break this down to separate parts. First one is I'm going to get the marks of the students. So you can see we recorded the marks of the students in the student exam mark record table. So I'm going to select or search all the details of that table. Here's my select query. Select, I need all the details, asterisk from here's the database, exam marks DB, and then here's the table. I need all the details from student exam mark record. Let's execute this one. You can see all the details are here, but we only need the first term. The marks belong to the first term. Okay, so for that we have to give this query a condition. So here's the condition, where here's the attribute. We are searching a specific value inside the term table, actually the exam term ID in the student exam mark record. So here's the attribute name. Let me copy that one, exam term ID. Okay, here's the attribute name, and then equal to, here we are writing another query by using two brackets. We are going to write the query inside these brackets to separate the two queries, and the result of that new query, or the query inside these two brackets will be feed into the first or the main query, which is the select query we execute, we do to the student exam mark record. Okay, and here's that query, select. We are writing another select query. Select. I don't need every attribute. I need only ID, because we are comparing the ID with the ID stored in the exam term ID attribute inside the exam mark record attribute, exam mark record table. Okay, so we need only ID. So let's go to the term table, exam term, and here you can see here's the term ID. We need that term ID because that's the attribute which is foreign to the main table, the student exam mark record table. So we need that, only that ID. Select term ID from, and here's the database exam mark record, exam marks DB, and here's the table. The data are in exam term, and here's the condition where we need the ID of first term. Let me go to the question. We need ID. You can see we need ID of the first term. So I'm going to give the name to search the ID. So here's the attribute where the names of the terms are stored. Term name, you can see term name. Let me copy that one. Term name equal to first term. Okay, let's execute this one. You can see now the results only show the marks or the records of the student exam mark record table where the exam term ID is equal to 1. That means the first term. This is the every mark. This is the complete set of marks belongs to the first term of this table. Okay, and then we have to find only the records of the subject mathematics. In here you can see there are many subjects mixed in these results. But we only need the subject, the marks of mathematics. So I have to write another query. So I'm separating this query by using AND. That's because we need data where the term ID is equal to the ID of the first term in exam term table, and then also we need to the ID of the subject ID of the subject is equal to mathematics, and I'm going to write another select query to the subject table. So here's that one. But before that we have to equal, or we have to compare it with the attribute in this current table, which is the student exam mark record. So the attribute in the exam mark record which is foreign by the subject table is subject ID. So here's the attribute. Let me copy the name. Here's the attribute subject ID equal to, here's the value. Actually here's the query. So the result of this query will be equal to the subject ID in the current table. So here's the query. Select. I need only the ID of the subject, so let's go to the subject table, and here you can see we need subject ID from from here's the database name exam marks DB, and here's the table name subject, where this is the condition. We need the ID of the subject name equal to is the attribute subject name. Actually, we can use the ID directly without using these queries, but in this way the query will be dynamic. That means if the ID of the subject table or the exam term table, if in some point in the future, if that ID delete or change, the query will not be affected. So that means the query will be accurate, and that's why we are using these subqueries. And subject name equal to, here's the subject name mathematics. We need the ID of mathematics, and here's the query. Let's execute this one. You can see the subject ID is equal to 1 and the exam term ID is equal to 1. You can see the subject ID in the subject table of mathematics is 1, and also the term ID of the first term is equal to 1. And here are the details, or here are the every record belongs to the students who get the marks to mathematics in the first term. And in the question you can see we only have to find the marks, or we only have to find the marks. So that means we don't need every attribute. We only need the attribute named mark. Here let's define that attribute mark. Now you can see only the marks are shown in the result. Okay, here's the seventh part of the question. Find all the marks obtained by all the students in the first term in Sinhala language and literature. Okay, here we have to find another set of marks. We also have to write a select query, and let's go to our ADSQL browser. For this one I'm going to use join queries, so that will help you to understand what are the difference between subqueries and join queries. Here's the here I'm starting the first query. Select, I need all the details from here's the table, here's the database examdb dot, here's the table. Our marks are stored in student exam mark record, and we are going to use join query. So we have to use the keyword join. There are many join queries like inner join, or the self join, outer joins and full outer joins, left joins and right joins, like that. We can, in this part we can use inner join or self join. Here's the inner join keyword. Okay, inner join. Here's the other table I'm going to join to this table. It's in exam mark DB, and then here's the other table. We need the details in subject table, because we are searching for the subject called Sinhala language and literature. And here we have to mention what is the connection between these two tables. That means we have to compare, we have to define the foreign key of the two tables, the key which is foreign to the other table. That's the connection between these two tables. So we have to use on key on keyword, and then here's the first attribute in the here's the attribute in the student exam mark record. Student exam mark record. I'm going to put this inside two gray version marks, and then dot. Here's the attribute, the subject ID equal. Here's the equal to the. Here's the attribute which is equal to the subject ID in the exam mark record from student table. Here's the table student, and let me put this in two gray version marks. I told you before you can skip this method if you want, but I am going to use this one. Dot, and here's the attribute name. Here's the attribute name, index number, and let's execute this one. Sorry, the subject ID, not the index number. This should be the subject table. Subject table. Let me put this inside two gray version marks, and dot. Here's the attribute subject ID. Let's execute this one. You can see here are the details of two tables called student exam mark records and the subject table. All the details are stored within our results. So we have to connect or join another query because we are searching the data for the term. So in order to do that, we have to join the table called exam term to this join query. So I'm going to define another inner join. Inner join. Here's the database name, exam marks db dot. Here's the table name, exam term, and here's the attributes which are equal in the two tables. We are comparing the data to the main table, which is the exam mark record table. So I am mentioning that one, exam mark record table on student exam mark record table. Let me put this inside two gray version marks, and then dot, and here's the attribute exam term ID equal to the ID of ID in exam term table, and dot is the exam ID equal to the exam equal to the term ID. And let's execute this one. You can see another set of attributes are connected to our results. These are the all results related to the three tables we join each other. Okay. You can use this refactor method to format the query you write. Here is the button automatic reformat, so that will change your query like this. And then now we can there are every detail or every attribute we need to find our details, which are the marks of Sinhala language and literature in first term. So here's the condition. We can use a single condition because this new table, in the result table here you can see this new result will be work as the a table or a new table, but this is not an actual table which is stored in our database. It's just a temporary table, but this table work as a table inside our database. So we can use conditions to search the data or sort the data in this new table. So where I need only the details of student table and the only the details of the subject equal to Sinhala language and literature. You know where the subjects are stored. Here you can see here are the three attributes. Two attributes belongs to the subject table, so we can write a condition to that subject table, where here I am mentioning the database exam mark DB. You don't have to mention this database over and over, but it's not it's if you mention that database like this, it's not going to do any harm. That's a good thing to do. So exam mark DB dot, here's the table name, subject. Let me clear this one, so otherwise you will complicate the this query, where subject dot and here's the name, subject name, and subject name will be equal to Sinhala language and literature. So subject dot subject name equal to here's the name. Let me copy that name. Let's go to the subject table and copy the name, Sinhala language and literature, and let's execute this one. That will only select the marks equal to the Sinhala language and literature within this table. From this table you can see only the Sinhala language and literature marks are shown in the result, and then we can write another query to separate the marks of the first term. Let me go to the question. First term and the result of Sinhala language and literature. So here I am mentioning about the first term. We have to use the keyword and, because we need to need the details, both the subject name is equal to Sinhala language and literature, and also the term name is equal to first name. So here's the here I am mentioning about the term. Here's the table, exam term, and here's the attribute name, term name, equal to, here's the value, first term. Let me copy that one. Let's go to exam term, and here's the first term. Okay, and here we write both conditions, and let's execute this one. You can see only the term, first term details, and the subject Sinhala language and literature are shown in the results. And in the question, we have to find only the marks of these students. So I don't have to use the asterisk marks. We can change the asterisk marks to the attribute we are searching for, and here's the attribute. We need only the marks. It's better you mention about the table, because there are more than one tables in this query. So let's mention that mention the table name where the attribute is stored. Here's the table, student exam mark record, student exam mark record dot, here's the attribute name. We only need details of marks, and you can see here are the details of Sinhala language in the first term of all the children in this school. So here we completed the seventh question, and here's the last question. Amandi Vijayasinghe entered another school from this school before the first term examination due to receiving a scholarship. Therefore, remove the information of the student from the student table. Okay, we have to remove this child from the student table. You can see Amandi Vijayasinghe is the new student we entered early in this question. So that means there can't be any details or any records in the student exam mark record, because she didn't face to the first term or the second term exam. So that means we can easily delete this record from the student table. Let's write a delete query to the student table. Let me clear this old query. And here when you are writing a delete query, you have to use the keyword delete first. Delete, and then from here's the database. We are going to delete a record which is stored in the exam marks DB, and here's the table student, and here's the condition where here's the place we are going to mention the unique ID to find that record, the specific record. So in this case, in the question, only the name of the student was given. So that means we can't use student ID. We have to use her name, and then and you can see there's two attributes which store the name separately, first name and the last name. So here's the first name. Here's the first name, first condition. First name should be equal to, let me copy one, first name should be equal to Amandi and then here's the second attribute, last name equal to Vijay Singha. Okay, here is the complete delete query. Let's execute this one. Okay, the query executed without any errors. That means the record of Amadni Vijay Singha should be deleted from the database. You can see when I refresh the database, the record of Amadni Vijay Singha was deleted. Okay, that means we completed our question 19. So I think that's it for this video, and thank you very much for watching.